Right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to episode 128 of the On Air Advocate. We're at the On Air Advocate. We look to provide education, support, and empowerment for all of those with different abilities, mental and medical illnesses, and their caregivers. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Tammy Flynn, and I am the host and producer of the On Air Advocate. And I am super excited if you are joining us here early this Tuesday morning, or if you are catching this on the replay. Now, as always, if you think any of the content that we are talking about today could be useful for anyone in your circle or network, please hit the share button and share the love with others. Well, if you guys have been following in the month of May, we have been in our education and support series that has been going on. And so I am super excited today to welcome a new guest. Her name is Karen Franco. She is a children's book author, as well as an advocate for those with special needs. And welcome, Karen.
Good morning, Tammy. How are you?
Good, good. And I mean, you have other titles too, like you're a wife and you're a mom. And I've also read that you've done some speaking and stuff too. So there's more things to actually add under your name.
Oh, I'm working on it. I think my biggest title, of course, is Jacob's mom.
Jacob's mom. I know we all get that title as moms, don't we?
Yeah.
You're someone's mom, which is great. And so much of what we're going to talk about today is about Jacob and how that puts you on this journey and into authorship and all of that. But to start, I would love for you to share with the audience just a little bit about your background and your family story.
I am a journalism major, so that's where my writing passion comes from. I had to put that on hold a little while when I did have Jacob. He was premature baby, and he brought a lot of challenges to the table, things that I wasn't expecting. And as time went on, we realized that things were not quite right. So just to give you a little bit of background on Jacob, he just wasn't developing the way most babies do, and everyone kept saying he was a preemie. So we pursued what we needed to do. We pursued doctors and whatnot and found out that he had a chromosomal abnormality. And with that chromosomal abnormality, he was missing a tiny piece of his fourth chromosome, which in time put him on the autism spectrum. And with that said, we just pursued every therapy we could, every doctor we could, the education that he needed to do the best he could as he grew and matured. Through that, I always say, living in Jacob's world, there were many stories to tell. And I think for myself, it became more of a therapy, the writing. And I just started writing about different things that happened to us, different places I would take him and what would happen. And a friend of mine read one of my stories and said, "Oh my gosh, this needs to get published." And I said, "Really?" And she's a teacher. So when she said that, I became a little bit more serious about it. And what I do with my stories, I have 4 right now, is I take maybe one of our struggles or our challenges and I put a positive spin on it. My first book, Just Hold My Hand, is about our day at the county fair. Now, we all know when we go to the fair, there's a lot of stimulation. There's a lot of things coming at you. And I could tell Jacob was becoming agitated and upset. And all I said was, "Just hold my hand." And that helped him get grounded. And that was the perfect title of my first book. And I just pursued it that way. My second book is Jacob's Hoop, and that's more about his physical limitations. And being a single mom for a while, I needed to work. So I needed to find daycare for Jacob. Well, I think we all know in our special needs world, finding daycare is not easy. And we had many doors closed in our face. And fortunately, we were able to find every child's place. And when we found that place, I've been on the board of directors there now for 20 years. They service children with special needs. And we built a playground for kids with special needs, wheelchair accessible and safety reasons. And in that playground was a basketball hoop for Jacob, titled Jacob's Hoop. So that was my second book. My third book, What Makes Bella Special, is about our dog, Bella, who is a Labradoodle. And she became Jacob's best friend and calming force. So I knew I needed to write about her and how she affects Jacob. And then my most current book is where did the sun go? And I think we know how weather affects our children when that barometric pressure drops. Behaviors come out. Well, whenever it was a cloudy day, Jacob's words to me were, "Mom, where did the sun go?" So there's my next title. So he's truly my inspiration, because whatever he says just ruminates with me, and somehow I find a story within what he tells me. And that's kind of the journey we've been on. So he's kind of like I don't know, just my partner in crime, so to speak. You know, he gives me the thought, he gives me the idea, and then I run with it with the words.
Now, because we are in this support education series, I want to extract from you, because you are a fountain of personal knowledge. And I feel like there's no better teachers than us as parents that have traveled the journey. So now Jacob is how old now?
He's 24 years old.
24 years old. So this has been over 2 decades of doing this,
Yes.
and kind of learning. Because as I always tell parents, we don't start out this way.
No, truly we don't.
We definitely don't. But would you say, back when Jacob was born, what I like to speak to a lot is there wasn't all of these resources that there are now, the way things are online and websites, and you could go to for support groups online and things like that. Did you find anything in those early years that were your guidance when there wasn't this?
That's a really good question. You know, back in the day, there, like you said, there wasn't the support groups. There wasn't the online activity that you see now. You know, I went to his pediatrician a lot, and he actually brought me to Children's Hospital. And that's kind of where I started my journey in knowledge, because we saw a psychologist, we saw a pediatrician who worked together to try to find a medication mix for Jacob, because clearly with his behaviors that were happening, even at a young age, we had to find the right medication mix. So that's kind of where I started, was Children's Hospital. And then from there, I kind of evolved, because I realized they weren't the end all be all to what I needed to know. It was maybe talking to parents even then, you know, because when you're set into a situation where you go to therapies and you go into a special classroom, you do connect with other parents. So there you had more discussions than you did anything. You said, oh, you know, my son does that, or my daughter does that. I found we were kind of on our own island for a long time. You know, you're just, you feel very removed from the day-to-day of normal people, so to speak. So it, you know, a lot of reading, just a lot of reaching out to other people who might be able to help. You know, back in the day, there was something called medical support, and they also provided the PT and the OT and the speech. And through them, I learned a little bit more. And through them, I was able to gain, you know, some more knowledge. So it was kind of a step-by-step process, really. And as time went on and kind of technology went on, that's when we kind of grew, you know, because every day was an adventure. I never knew where it was going to take me. And that's kind of how I started. It was just kind of just general talk and who I met along the way.
Right. And encouraging parents to always ask a zillion questions.
Oh, absolutely.
Anything you're thinking on your head, ask it.
Yeah. There's no such thing, as we say, as a dumb question. Someone is experiencing something like what you are. You're not alone.
Right. Exactly. Now, for Jacob, is his primary diagnosis just autism, or does he have some other medical complications, or just global cognitive and developmental delay?
You know, other than the chromosomal deletion, there is really no medical issues with Jacob, which I'm very grateful for. He's a very healthy young man. But through this chromosomal deletion, we just learned how it brought him to the autism spectrum. So overall, you know, he has the sensory issues and the OCD and the echolalic kind of communication. So it evolved into, I guess you could say, autism, you know, just from what he was lacking in the cognitive and developmental area, if that makes sense.
Yes. And in your seeking out of finding him kind of a daycare facility, you know, somewhere that he could be for after school care and all of that, I know you speak of this place, and actually it's in Wisconsin, and I've never been there. So like, I need to come and see.
You do. Oh, it's absolutely beautiful.
But you know, what I love to do is to look at things that are successful, that are models. models of something that is working in our state or an area, as to how it all flows to then help other states and places look at like, oh, we don't have anything like that. How did they make this work? So for that facility, what is the name of it again?
It's called Every Child's Place, and it's in Kenosha. It's in Kenosha, and we actually partnered with Gateway Technical College. So it's on the Gateway Technical College campus in Kenosha.
Okay. And what was kind of the process of them getting that started? So it wasn't always a daycare facility that had...
No, it actually has quite an interesting story, because what happened was when I was looking for daycare, unfortunately, one daycare that I had Jacob in, and he was only 3 at the time, he was there 2 days. On the second day, in his backpack, they put a note, "Don't bring him back tomorrow." And that's the note I received from a daycare center. Well, I was so distraught and so upset. My mom, of all people, met a woman in the grocery store, a friend of hers that she's known for years, who also had an older daughter with special needs. And my mom was telling this particular person about Jacob's issues and my issues. And she said, "Well, you need to go see Ginny Bridges. She will help you, I guarantee it." So I looked up Ginny Bridges, and at the time, Ginny was the executive director of a daycare called Cuddle Care. And I went to see her, and Ginny, by profession, she's a speech therapist. And I went to meet with her, and I told her my story, and she said immediately, "Jacob is welcome here tomorrow. You bring him here tomorrow." And Jacob never left. From age 3, he just was there. But we had quite a journey because we had some financial difficulties with our daycare center. Shortly after Jacob started going there, Ginny asked me to be on the board of directors as a parent advocate then. And I said, absolutely. And so with that said, in our journey financially, we had to break away from our current lease, and we had to move out of there, and Cuddle Care had to move somewhere else. Well, in doing that, we changed our name to Every Child's Place, knowing that our mission was not only to service typically developing kids, but also kids with special needs. So that's through board meetings and through other people getting involved and being supportive, we became Every Child's Place. Well, during about a 3-year span, we were searching and searching for that right facility, a building. We needed brick and mortar. And somehow Ginny got in touch with Gateway and the president at the time, and she heard our story and thought what a great partner that would be for the college. And that's how it evolved. And we're now been open 15 years. Every Child's Place has been in existence for 15 years. It's a nonprofit child care center that services kids with special needs. And it is just absolutely wonderful. And the people involved in our board right now are so supportive and just are huge advocates of our mission. And every year we have a golf outing. June 20th, I'm going to plug it, is our great golf outing fundraiser at Bristol Oaks Country Club in Kenosha. So if anybody's interested in golf, please come out. It's a great...
all that info below. If you have a flyer and stuff, we can drop it right below this live. Now, what age do they service children? What is considered still the space?
Yeah, the daycare still is under state licensing where it's like an infant to 12 years old.
Okay.
So you still have that gap of what to do with your child after school, right. And that is a struggle. But luckily we do have another facility through the Recplex in Pleasant Prairie. They have what they call therapeutic recreation there, and it's also a special needs program for individuals from like 12 to maybe like 22. So that's a really helpful facility as well. And Jacob did attend there.
And as me and you have discussed, which we could probably do a whole nother broadcast segment on, is after the age of 21 and 22.
Yes.
What happens, and there's that drop off, which I think eventually I'm going to do a whole series on, because there's so many layers to it to discuss it at one time. But you have been very fortunate after the transition. How long after your son turned 21? I know he's in more of a housing, right? He lives in a family.
Yeah. He's in an adult family home, they call it. Yes.
An adult family home. How long after he was 21 did you guys transition into that? or was it
Oh,
going?
it took us a while. It took us because he just did it last September, so he was 23. So there was a good 2 to 3 years before we even tackled that. We needed to, after he graduated from high school, he did the best he could. He did graduate with his peers. It was a wonderful day. And after that, he struggled in high school because I know everyone can go to school until they're 21.
Right.
But Jacob just, after that year, was really struggling behaviorally, and it just wasn't working. So we did take him out of high school after that. And then luckily we found Careers Industries, which is a vocational facility that he goes to every day. And they have two parts to that. They have the vocational side where the individuals work and put pieces and parts together from companies that contract with careers, or you have an independent day services part where they do activities and outings for people who may not be able to function on the work side. And Jacob just adores going there. So we've been very fortunate to find that in that interim between high school and that adulthood. Where do we go from here? And through that, we knew we needed to help him with his independent living skills a little bit more. Being an only child and being an enabling mother, sometimes I did too much for him. I'm the one helping him get dressed. I'm the one doing this and that. And I had to learn hands off. And I brought in some therapists to help him in the home learn those skills where I knew he could function a little bit better. And we had about 3 years of that in the house, of just honing in on those independent living skills, making his bed, brushing his teeth, everything we take for granted. I wanted him to learn. And I was just blessed to find the right people to come help. And just meeting other people I sort of heard about Crabtree Residential. It was just kind of in discussions that I had with people in the community, and they're like, oh, you really need to go talk to this person. And that's how I got kind of directed that way for the group home setting. And I was able to meet the manager and had great discussions and tours of his homes to see what it was like. And he had an opening, and we just pursued it, knowing that, I'm a firm believer things happen for a reason, and it just came, and they were very patient with us and slowly introduced it to us. It wasn't like it happened the next day. It was a gradual process. And I was just very grateful they were patient with me, because it was actually harder on me than Jacob in the whole scheme of things. So that's kind of how we found the group home setting.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that it's great for people to see kind of that evolution, that journey that you
Yes.
from, infancy to kind of, trying to figure out what was going on, what were the best strategies, to writing about it, to producing books, to following through high school, to trying to find the school care while he was under 12, and the care afterwards. And there are a lot of obviously loopholes and things to jump through. When we talk about group facilities and stuff, you have to be a match for the place that you're going to.
Yes.
So for some, the transition, it might take 5 or 10 years to find the right place. But and really being honest about that, it took 3 years of kind of hands off doing therapies to get some of those independent skills where you felt that they needed to be, because I find myself in that. It's so hard. When you've done things and you don't want them to fall, but they need to fall to probably learn.
Yeah, it's so hard to watch them struggle, and that, oh, if I help him, it'll be all done. And you're like, nope, I can't. I gotta let him do it on his own. And like you said, there's so many stages in his life. And you can almost mark it on a timeline of when things shifted, when even services shifted. From going to Katie Beckett to Medicaid to Social Security, all those steps to make sure that he's cared for as he goes on to adulthood. It was so much simpler when he was small, but as you get older, there's all these other avenues you have to go down and get it all structured. It's even financially, that special needs trust you have to put into place. There's all those things that other people really don't have to think about as their child grows. And these are things that we really need to take into consideration as they get older. So every day is a new step in that journey.
Yes. And I would say that, you know, sometimes it feels like when your kiddo may be born with some type of different ability of some sort, you're overwhelmed, you're like in this hurricane, typhoon, not knowing, and you feel like it's all encompassing and it's this and that. Could it ever get to be any more? And then you start to learn and you're like, oh, I got the hang of this, I got the hang of this, I got the hang of it. And then you're like, oh, they're 21. Oh, okay, I don't know anything anymore.
I lost it all. I don't remember anything now. Now I have to start fresh. You got to learn a whole new set of skills and knowledge to help them go to that next level.
Right. And rules. And, you know, I know that you had talked a little bit about vocational work and whatnot. For some that don't, you know, for some that don't know, there used to be a heavy presence of, you know, different vocational work, you know, that you could do, where you could work in a workplace industry setting and get paid a little bit less of a cost, but get care and learn skills and whatnot. Over the years, that has changed, and it's going to continue to change.
Yeah.
And now you have to be, it's 26 years old, right?
25.
25 to get into a program like that. But eventually, like the state of Wisconsin is an employment first state. So eventually a lot of those facilities and things, there won't be.
Which is kind of sad, because the individuals who work there, I mean, if anyone took a tour of these facilities, you would see complete joy and so much pride. These people are so excited to show you what they did today and how they do it. And to take that away from them is such a shame, because some of these individuals truly cannot work in the community. You know, it's just not in their knowledge base. It's not in their behavior sense. They just can't do it. And for the state to justify that, I understand it is a good thing for some people to be out in the community, and I'm all for that. If they're able to do that, oh, I think it's thrilling. It's wonderful. But for those individuals who can't, why take this away from them? I struggle with this. I really struggle with this, because there's more people that cannot work in the community than there are that can. And I just think you need to differentiate that. It's not, you can't just put them all in one big pool. Right, you know, it doesn't work that way. Mm-hmm. And I just wish these people who are making these decisions could come and realize it shouldn't happen that way. Right. And yeah,
because it just eliminates the little options that are there, because there's so
exactly.
many options, and it makes it almost no options.
Exactly.
You know, for what is to come. And, you know, for those that can sometimes work within the community, maybe they can only, you know, attain for 2 to 4 hours a week. Well, right. Gathering self-worth, being home 150 hours of the week, not having anything to do, is that really a win? You know, and as I have found, because I'm on this hardcore journey, as me and Karen have talked about, is that you can't make any employer, even if a state wants to push it, want to employ the disabled, meaning that they look at them as a value to their business. They look at them as a value and want to bring them in and want to train them and want them to be there, because would you want your loved one to be somewhere where they felt as if they weren't wanted, you know? Right. So no matter what kind of bonuses or things that a state can put on, and it's very, very sad, but you can't make someone do something. And so I think this will be a different topic, but I mean, years down the road, it's just going to continue to do this more and more and more, the more we push for something that really isn't sustainable for the amount of individuals in what they need. But you have done an amazing job with that the transition with Jacob, and I'm excited that you're in this space where he is doing some of that independent living and all of that. That's very exciting to see and very inspiring for other parents that are like, oh, I don't know if it can ever happen. When you
trust me, I'm there. I know. And Jacob, I mean, he's kind of in the middle. You know, he's not the high functioning. He's not the low, you know, he's right smack in the middle. So I just never knew he could get to this point. I mean, I'm so proud of him. I mean, we are just over the moon proud of what he has accomplished and just his maturity. I mean, all of a sudden in the 8 months that he's been, his maturity level is just off the charts. And I'm like, oh my gosh, look at him. You know, it's just, I couldn't be more proud. And oh my goodness, yeah, it's been quite a ride. It's been really, I'm happy.
Your next book.
I know.
So now your books, tell me a little bit more. I mean, obviously there were all the, you know, the stories, and you were kind of talking about your journey, what you were going through. As you have gone from library and presentation to presentation and talking to people about these books, who do you feel that your books all serve?
You know, I truly believe they serve individuals who need to learn more about kids who are different. You know, I didn't write them specifically for maybe, you know, for people who are involved with special needs so much, because they know what they're up against. They know, you know, their life. It's more for, like, the other day I went to a school in Kenosha and I was able to talk to 5th graders, 4th graders, and 3rd graders all about this. They had the best questions. They asked me so many interesting questions and really well thought out questions. So I thought, you know, here I touched these children who want to learn more about kids with special needs. So right there was a huge bonus. Teachers coming up to me and thanking me, which was, I mean, just a feather in my cap. I was so thrilled. You know, and they said they read them in their classrooms. You know, they're in their school libraries. I just believe my books are about helping others learn about patience and understanding and clearly acceptance of those kids that are different. But through my you know, things that I attend, the speaking engagements, I just realize how much special needs touches so many lives. And I think my books are for everyone. I mean, they really are for just anybody who wants a simple story, I say, with a big meaning of just helping our kids feel a part of you know, a bigger purpose, a bigger community. You know, they want friends just like anybody else. You know, they want to feel a part of things. And I think that's where I'm headed. You know, it's definitely a teaching tool, but it's also just a feel-good story for kids to read, you know, if that makes sense, you know, if that helps.
Yeah, and what we know is that you know, knowledge is power, and giving people the knowledge also a lot of times stomps out fear. So
Yes.
a lot of times when kids don't know things, that's where sometimes those bullying behaviors come from. You know, the unknown, it seems weird, it seems scary, it seems this. And when you give them that knowledge and they understand it, it's like, oh, I get it. You know,
Yeah.
and so they don't feel, you know, the need to ask questions that sometimes aren't very nice or say things because they completely understand it. And so I think your books are awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
They should be in every school and in the hands of every parent, because it is all about learning acceptance, and we're all different. All different,
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, celebrating our uniqueness. I always say our limited editionness. We're all
Yeah, well, that's a good way.
in our own way. And so I'm just excited that, you know, there are more authors coming up each and every day that are writing about this, you know, topic, and giving the opportunity for our young, you know, our young kids to have stories to read like this, to learn better acceptance.
Yeah, yes. And the kids that I spoke to the other day, you know, they were so funny. They kind of whispered, and they say, you know, so-and-so over there, we always help him. You know, they were very kind, and they knew it wasn't, you know, they knew their part in all this, you know, and it was just so sweet. And they say, oh, my brother, he struggles. So, you know, they understand, you know, they're really getting it. And I think that's what's so important, because I know when I went to school, we didn't have kids with special needs among us, you know, so I just think the kids today are really are learning more acceptance.
Right. Now, what is next for the book series, or for you? Is there any things to highlight that are kind of coming up in the pipeline?
You know, through the summer, I try to reach out and find different author events. I just came back from a writers conference over the weekend, so I'm always looking for that, you know, that next phase to kind of network and you know, get my books out there more. My biggest thing coming isn't until November. I was invited to participate in the Southeastern Wisconsin book festival in Waukesha, and it's a pretty big deal. And there's a panel of authors, so I'm really excited about that. But like I said, it's not till November, so I'm hoping that through the summer I can at least reach out and maybe go to a couple events here and there where I could highlight my books.
Wonderful. And where can people find you? Where are you the most accessible?
Well, I have a Facebook page under Karen Franco Books. I am on Instagram, Karen Franco Books. I have a website, KarenFrancoBooks.com, to learn more about Jacob, more about my books. And then I have, my email. But you can get my books on Amazon, or if you would like a signed copy, which I'm always thrilled to do, is you can always order them directly through me, and I'm happy to sign them and mail them to you. And my email is on my website. So
wonderful. And so we'll drop all of that below then for the folks. And
okay.
then that golf outing that's coming up, and the name of that daycare center, because I feel like that's awesome.
Yes.
Other places to look at, because there is such a need for that in every state, and
Yes.
everywhere you go, actually in every county.
Yes, absolutely. Care is necessity, and giving those parents peace of mind when they leave their child, that they will be cared for just like they would. So that's huge.
That they are in a safe place. But as we just wrap up today, is there anything, Karen, that would be your advice or something that you'd like to leave the audience with today?
I think my biggest message is you're not alone. Today, there are so many support groups. There are so many parents out there that want to reach out and they ask questions. I find that even, on Facebook, different groups, but just that you're not alone. We are just our biggest support system. And I think there's kindness and there's caring, and other individuals are going through similar situations. And that exchange of thoughts, ideas is just so beneficial.
Right. And that being said, through the transition of, May is also Mental Health Awareness Month. And
yes,
we talked a lot about, for those of us that are in that caregiver, community, a lot of times, there is a lot of that alienation,
absolutely. Yes, unfortunately.
And so you're so right. You are not alone. We are all right here. And Karen, definitely, I know somebody shot you over an email, had a question for you. You'd be more than happy to answer it and be there. Wonderful. So thank you guys all for watching this morning, hanging with us for the last half an hour. Thank you, Karen, for sharing your story and your journey and about your books. We're going to drop all of that information below. If you would like any more information about the On Air Advocate and the services that we offer, you can go to onairadvocate.com. Also, don't forget to sign up for our monthly newsletter that we have as well while you're there. And then if you'd like to join our private community, you can head up to the top of this page, hit the blue button, and that will let you into our private On Air Advocate community. So on that note, everybody in Wisconsin, enjoy the sunshine. Get outside.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen. It was such a joy.
Great day.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. Bye-bye.